And I'm so proud of myself that I just remembered. Been a long day. I'm going to ask that everybody mutes themselves if they don't mind, just because everyone's got noise going on in the background and whatsoever. Let's see. Greg, you're going to keep track of everybody who's here. So, oh, and there's Tim. Great. So I'm going to call the meeting to order of the Tourism and Economic Development Advisory Committee at, what time is it exactly? 7:02. The first order of business is to welcome Laura Budd, who is right there in the middle of my screen. Many of you know Laura. Laura and I have worked together for, gosh, the last 8 years over at the Chamber. She was marketing associate. I was executive director. Now that I've moved over to the town, Laura stepped into my shoes, which was a seamless transition. She's a little solo. We broke up the band a little bit, but we're thrilled to have Laura now as part of TDAC. So I think she'll add a lot. Laura, thank you for participating tonight. When we do come to any votes, you can't vote yet because you just haven't been sworn in, but just everyone will get to know you, and we thank you for being here. I'm just gonna call the roll quickly because I just want to make sure I didn't. All right, so I don't see Nez, I don't see Karen, I don't see Jack Loop, Heather, or Sue Schweitzer. Okay, but everybody else I've got. Okay. The first bit of business we've got to do, and thank everybody for being here tonight. We are going to hear a presentation from Nancy Greenspon and maybe Tim McDermott about the Live New Canaan campaign. Most of us obviously know what it's all about because we funded this last year, but it's always nice to get a report and see where we're at and where we're going. So I'll turn it over to Nancy and then you can.
Tucker, before we do that, would we like to approve the minutes?
Thank you, Greg. That's why you're the secretary and I'm caught up in the minutes. We do need to approve the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? I sent them all out to you, so as presented. Yes, Alan, second? Okay, Nancy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. Thanks, Greg, for that. I would have forgotten. Okay, Nancy, back to you.
Okay, great. I will try to share my screen now. And this is definitely Nancy and Greg.
Do I need to make you a co-host to do that?
Yes, I think so.
All right, hang on.
So I can share my screen.
All right, I just did. Should I make Tim a co-host as well?
Well, I don't think he has it open, so I don't think it matters.
Okay, so I just made you a co-host.
Okay, thanks. Let me just try to get into this. Where's our Live New Canaan? I had it open earlier. See if I can open it this way. Okay, can you see that?
Not yet.
Oh. All right, let me try this.
I'm muting a few of you because you're still unmuted and I'm getting a lot of feedback.
All right, I'm seeing it on my screen, but I'm not seeing it on, you're not seeing anything.
I see you.
You do, and you don't see this.
No, so you have to click on share. If you
yeah, I did.
Share screen.
Let me just try that again. There we go. Can you see it?
Yep.
Great. Okay. So this is a wonderful report that Tim and his team at Noble House put together at the end of September. That was it was actually our most recent monthly report. We get wonderful reports from them every month, as well as daily communication, just to see where we are from month over month. And you know, we haven't spoken in quite a long time, you and I and Tim. And while we don't pretend to take credit for the enormous sea change in buyer habits in looking at real estate in New Canaan, but we would like to take some credit for it because we've been at this for 2 years. And we are just really thankful that we're in the right position, right place at the right time with the right message. And we're sure that, you know, I heard today on the radio that Fairfield County is the #1 destination for people moving into a region in the country. And I think we can take a fair amount of credit for getting a lot of eyeballs on New Canaan versus other towns because of everything that we've been doing for this long period of time and the great job that the Noble House team is doing. So this is just an overview of what's involved in the program. It's social media on all platforms. It's content creation, everything from photography and video to press releases to ads, everything we need, the agency does. Email marketing, I think most of you, I hope you all are, and if you're not, please let me know, getting the Live New Canaan newsletter every week or every 2 weeks now. This goes out with information about things going on in town to over 30,000 people, about 10,000 in New Canaan, and the other 20,000 to targeted zip codes where we know people live who have historically bought houses in New York. So those are our target customers from a real estate standpoint, but they're really all of our target market people. So if you don't get it, let me know. We'd like you to get it every week and have your email so you can see what's going on. Google Ads, which are specifically targeted to our target customer in zip codes that we know are where customers have come from. They're also very clearly identified by demographics, interested in buying, all kinds of things. Tim can maybe speak a little more to that. Public relations, I hope you all saw, and if you don't, I'll show you later, the article in the Wall Street Journal on Monday, or was it Tuesday, talking about our public schools opening, being among the first in the country successfully opening during COVID. And there's a picture and some quotes from Dr. Lutzy, and it really puts us in a great light, our schools in a great light. And schools have always been a big part of the message that we talk about. Search engine optimization. Tim, do you want to just give a layman's explanation of what that is?
Certainly. So search engine optimization is, well, the process of optimizing your website, both on-site and off-site, in order to increase its visibility to search engine users. So predominantly Google, since they have 90% of the market share of search engines, but also across Bing and Baidu and so on, in order to make sure that livenewcanaan.org is appearing when people are typing in remotely pertinent keywords.
And we just recently reached a wonderful milestone in that department too. Tim, what did you tell me about? We're now on the first page of Google search for.
Yes, so US-wide, on average, when you are typing in town of New Canaan, livenewcanaan.org will be the 9th result, which means that it's now secured its position on page 1 for the phrase town of New Canaan.
And hopefully in time it will move up just because of all of the activity that's going on our website and through all the social media. Yes. And website enhancement, they're constantly putting on new content, blog stories about businesses, about activities in town, about the schools, about real estate, about really everything about living in New Canaan. And upcoming is just more of the same. So the social media has increased, well, month over month, we went up 1.5 to 1.6 on Facebook. Instagram was up 32% month over month, is that correct? And way up from the beginning. And I hope you all are following Live New Canaan on Instagram. There's some incredible content being posted on, and we have to give a big thank you to Sue Benko, who's boots on the ground for taking pictures and gathering information of things that are going on in town and feeding that to the agency. And then the agency will tweak it and make it look right and use it on social media. But anything you want to say about social, Tim? Except that it's going great.
Just unmuting here. Nothing to add there other than that it's such a pleasure to be able to represent New Canaan here and work with the teams involved, particularly with Sue Benko's assistance. It's been wonderful to be able to highlight our communication pillars across the board.
Okay, and the pillars again, we use that sort of as an internal word, but from our market research that we did right in the beginning of the campaign over 2 years ago, we learned that the pillars, the reasons that people choose to live in New Canaan are: number 1, top schools; number 2, great sense of community. Number 3, vibrant, walkable downtown. Number 4, more house for your money. And we've added a couple restaurants because there's so much going on there. And what's the last one now, Tim?
Close proximity to New York.
Close proximity to New York. That's actually number 4. So anyway, all of the reasons that people come to live in New Canaan are the messages that we try to reinforce on a constant basis in one way or another. In addition to just all the wonderful things going on in town with the businesses and restaurants and organizations and nonprofits. So we've had a very robust social advertising program over the summer, and we had link clicks of 1,213 and cost per click of 24 cents, which is extremely cheap, just because we had so many clicks. And part of that is because the targeting has been so good. We are obviously targeting people who would like to come and buy a house in New Canaan. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Tim, about how you identify those people?
Certainly. So to begin with, a lot of A/B testing is conducted in order to really refine our audience and learn more about them and acquire a lot of data. And of course, I won't be speaking as eloquently about this as our social media specialists, but to provide you with that overview, it really is a data-driven approach in order to ascertain the optimal target demographic for this and display our advertising in front of them in order to bring not only a vast quantity of traffic, but also ensure that the quality of that traffic is in line with our ultimate objectives.
Okay. And here are some examples of the creative that have been used in the social advertising over the summer. And again, they speak to the pillars: top-rated schools, vibrant, walkable town center, strong sense of community, and then there's just a few other iterations of messages we wanted to get across. But we have been talking a lot, really since spring, about how successful e-learning, distance learning has been in New Canaan, because really right from the beginning, our schools latched onto it, did a great job remotely, and now have done a great job of reopening. So that's been a big message, and this creative has worked very well for us. So here's, just something about the email marketing. I can send this to anybody who wants to see it and read it in more detail, but again, it's messages that talk to our 6 pillars. We've talked about, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember now. What do we talk about? We talk about businesses and activities and nonprofit things. We talked about the sculpture garden. We talked about things going on at the library. We talk about all kinds of stores and shops and restaurants. What else, Tim? It's so much content, it's hard to remember, and we're always interested in things that are going on. So if you know of things that are going on, please let us know, because we're always looking for news. But it all has related to things going on in the town this week. And of course, there's always a big real estate component. We talk about open houses, and we have links on them to getting to the Flex MLS listings. So if people are looking for a house, they can plug in their filters and get a list of houses that they want to look at, or open houses that they want to visit. So digital ad placement, I can't quite explain these lines, Tim, but if anybody wants to read them more carefully, it tracks how well our ads have done week over week. And I think testament to their effectiveness is how little we have spent. I mean, we have spent in the low 3 figures on social media advertising. And I think we've gotten immeasurable results in terms of buyers and people coming to our website and attention and eyeballs on the town. And it's all due, in fact, to the targeting that the agency does. I mean, we don't, it's so efficient that we know we're talking to the people we want to reach. Is that a good way of saying it, Tim?
It is, yes.
Please add anything. Public relations, I mean, the agency is always doing pitches to the media, the unpaid media, on stories of things that are going on in town. And one of them was, of course, the distance learning, which started in the spring and then more recently talked about the in-person learning.
Nancy, did you guys pitch that story to the Wall Street Journal, or did they just pick that up?
No, the agency has been working with them for months.
Great.
And finally it came to pass when the in-person learning happened, and then they talked to Dr. Letsy. So, we've had stories in all these other publications. It's something that we do on a constant basis, but we are not just doing traditional PR in the sense of trying to get stories in the paper, but we do it when we have a story that we think is compelling and we want to get it out to everybody, and we do get pickup. So, Tim, this one's yours. Search engine optimization, which you've already talked about a little bit, but this measures it.
Yes, indeed. So I can give you a more updated report for that. It's now at 580 keywords that we're ranking for in the top 100. Again, we're looking at that from the scope of US-wide rather than just a particular zip code or city or state. So exceeding 500 keywords in the top 100 is tremendous, particularly as the quality of those keywords is improving, and most excitedly being on page 1 US-wide for the town of New Canaan, which I'm hoping you should be able to all verify independently through your own search engines. This is really a time-consuming process that has tremendous long-term return on investment here, particularly as you increase your dominance for your particular niche, such that it won't matter what wacky combination of keywords someone is typing in, livenewcanaan.org will be able to appear should it be remotely pertinent.
Okay. And I have to just reinforce the fact, as Tim mentioned, this is a long-term process. It's taken us a long time to get to this point. And while we're really excited about the success of this program right now, it's been over 2 years in the making. And, should anyone think that you can just magically hire an agency and do this, it takes an awful lot of building to get to this point, and we're really proud of it and excited about it. The website, as I said, continually is updated and was beautifully developed by the agency. They did some new drone video, lots of new photography over the summer. I'm happy to say there's a bit more diversity in the visuals on the website. We're always looking for more. Tim has been liaising with the Newcomers Club to get more interviews and testimonials from newcomers in town. We'd love to get more diversity. If anybody has any suggestions or people that they know who would be willing to talk to us, we would love to know. But we've made some progress in that department. And so upcoming, which is what we do all the time, website enhancements, new stories, new posts, new things going on in the fall, throughout the fall, and reveling in the success of being in the top 10 results when people search for the town of New Canaan. So we think everybody has been benefited by this, certainly the real estate community, hopefully the businesses in town, and we are completely supportive of the businesses in town. We're always anxious and interested in wanting to feature them on the website, in the newsletter, in social media. So please send them our way, and we will. I mean, I like to think of Live New Canaan as kind of the news bureau for the town of New Canaan, and it's businesses and it's real estate, and we are happy to feed it and want to feed it with any and all pertinent information. I mean, we do shy away from things that, and we won't cover personal things or political things or anything that's too might alienate some folks. We wanted to keep it very broad, but we're very inclusive in terms of the businesses, the activities, and everything great about New Canaan. And we want to continue, will continue, and would like for you to help us fund it, because the Board of Realtors has been funding it alone for the first year, and then the TDAC and the town pitched in with $10,000 for the first half of this year. So we would welcome continued funding, and we will continue to support everything you want us to support wholeheartedly, and hopefully be a partner that benefits all of us.
Thank you. Does anybody on the committee have any questions? Kevin, I see you there too. Does anybody have any questions for Nancy or Tim? We can talk about the funding after, but let's just right now just focus on any questions with the presentation.
In terms of, can you hear me?
Yeah.
In terms of social media, Nancy, have you identified any themes in your postings that render more clicks that are particularly click-worthy?
You know, I am sure that that has been looked at by the social media team, and I personally don't know the answer right now. But Tim, they do measure that stuff all the time, don't they, to just understand what kind of posts get the most clicks?
Absolutely, and that's really part of a successful organic social media campaign, is really assessing the data, seeing what types of posts perform really well, and seeing ultimately how we can continue the upward trend that we're experiencing. I know off the top of my head, for example, videos and carousels perform quite well. But if you're interested in exploring more, I'd love to connect you with our social media team to discuss.
Or maybe we could do a little, you know, just a quick little report that we could send to the committee.
Yeah.
We might ask Teresa to just give us a little snapshot of what's working the best.
Absolutely.
To that end, I'd love to know if you have the average engagement rate for Instagram. You know what your average is?
I can grab that as well from Teresa and the team.
Terrific, thank you.
Okay, so we'll get that to you. I have the Wall Street Journal story here too, if you want me to bring it up, if I can.
Yeah. Nancy, I had a question about just the email marketing. I saw the numbers kind of are all over the place. You have, you know, some are 11%, and then you have some that are, you know, higher.
You mean the open rate?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, obviously it depends on content and time. I mean, have we analyzed that, Tim? I don't know that we have. I mean, some are stronger than others, but 30 is an astronomically high number. 10 or 11, I think, is a very good number. And we really sort of broadcast the news as it happens. So we don't, you know, we can't create it. It is what it is. But I don't know. Do we have any analysis of that?
I believe, and Nancy, would you be able to kindly scroll to the email section of the PDF?
Yeah.
So
did I pass it? No, I did.
Yes,
yeah, I did.
You just passed it. One more below, and then email marketing. So I believe here some of I'm just looking more is happening this month. Important update. Okay. Yes. So Nancy did touch on it, that when we're compiling our email marketing campaigns, there are a number of variables that need to be taken into account. First off is the content that is done, the custom graphics that are included there, and then the subject line. We litmus test the subject lines in attempts to increase their open rates. And then once the emails are opened, how do we increase the click-through rates? So that's where a lot of the focus is on the content. With each email that is sent out, there are subsequent drip campaigns as well. So that means a follow-up email with a different subject line, perhaps more personalization or less, would be sent as a follow-up to recipients who did not open the first communication, in order to give them a friendly nudge so that they click through.
Great. Thank you, Tim.
I just want to make sure I captured some of the questions. The first question was from Amanda, questions that we'll get follow-up on. The first question was from Amanda, more about any of the social media posts. So are you finding that any are getting more traction than others? The other question was from Alan, wanting to know the Instagram engagement rate. that right, Colin? And then that question was more specific to the email open rate. Question I have is, how are you, I know initially, again, pre this little real estate boom that we're in, were you, I know we were talking about focusing and directing the campaign to Brooklyn and the Upper West Side and things like that. What's changed, or what are you doing now? What are you finding that's working now, or what are your plans for directing the campaign going forward?
A lot of this is leveraging the mass momentum that is pushing a lot of residents into making their decisions more quickly. So particularly with the faster marketing channels such as email marketing, the social ads, Google, being able to ensure that our messaging is in front of their eyeballs when they're making the decision of which surrounding towns around New York City should we be moving to, that they are able to see our messaging there. And particularly as we refine our audience, we're able to see people who express interest in such things, that family residencies based on their previous purchasing history, their search history in some cases, and obtaining lookalike audiences from there. To explain, a lookalike audience is essentially you're able to find your target profile based on someone that has clicked on the ad or otherwise engaged with our website before, and look for 100 unique people that fit that persona, and then deliver the ads to them as well. So ensuring that our messaging is available at the right time for these people, particularly during the days of COVID where there's so much happening, has been paramount to us in our mission to ultimately increase the number of people moving towards New Canaan. And that's just one body that's there. But to provide you with a more thorough response, I would like to touch base with Peter there.
Okay.
Well, in general, we feel that things are working and we want to continue. The thing about, as all of you know, as marketers and PR people, it's not a one-shot deal. It's a continuous effort, and it builds upon itself. So we want to continue to build, and we're seeing some great results, and we're going to keep it up. It'll just vary as things evolve in the community.
Have any of the realtors indicated that there has been a direct connection to them from Live New Canaan social media or email blasts that they can attribute right to your work that you've done?
Anecdotally, I can tell you that many people have told me that they've heard that people know about Live New Canaan. From what iteration, I don't know. We have the website, we've got all kinds of social media activity going on, we've got ads, but the awareness of Live New Canaan, in fact, I actually spoke to a real estate person recently who said something about, I was talking to her about how they ought to do a website for their condo complex, and she said, she brought up to me Live New Canaan, and I said, well, I know Live New Canaan quite well, and yes, I do think it's the way to go, but I just think awareness of the campaign has grown among both buyers and realtors, and other than that, subliminally and messages, it's just hard to know, but we sure do have a lot of people trooping into town.
Tucker, I have a quick question for you.
Sure. You know what? Maybe hang on one second. Nancy, could you unshare now just so I can see?
Oh, sure.
I'm only getting 4 people at a time, and I'm trying to see if I had to mute someone. There we go. Who was that? Was that Sue Schweitzer who just had a question?
Yes, but it's a quick question.
Sure.
I see that this Live New Canaan site has been very effective in the real estate marketing program, and I wonder what its application has been on visitor traffic and tourism.
Right. It's a good question.
Tim, have we had any feedback from any of the businesses that we've interviewed or featured? I mean, they certainly are grateful to have the exposure. I don't know if we've had much discussion afterward.
The frequency with which businesses are requesting to be featured on our website has also increased dramatically. Month over month, it feels like it's doubling in terms of people that are saying, hi, I'd love to be present on livenewcanaan.org. What steps need to happen for that to happen?
Right. And yeah.
Oh, pardon. Please go ahead.
Well, I just building on that, I thought I wanted to say, for TDAC to say to businesses in the community, this is value added for them. We are happy to feature them, and we've got a wide audience already developed that we would like to share their information with. So it's kind of a benefit that you can offer to businesses in town.
And the same with some of our cultural.
Absolutely. All the nonprofits and cultural organizations.
Maybe we need to spend a little time working on that as part of TDAC and with your help. It's great to know that many know that they can take advantage of it, but I'm sure there's just as many that maybe aren't aware that this is just a service that we can offer, and that content is king, and we're always looking for more to add to this great campaign, and people should take advantage of that.
Do you want us to create some sort of a piece that you could send out to everybody?
I think it would be great. I mean, we could certainly, Laura could send it out to the businesses. I'm sure we could get them out to all the nonprofits.
I think also it would be helpful to know that this target is not just a home buyer.
Yeah.
This target is to a potential visitor as well.
Right.
Did you have a question, Kevin?
I was going to make a comment. I'm seeing it all the time, which means I'm using one of the 500 keywords, I guess.
We're following you, Kevin.
But as a New Canaan resident, I don't click on it, so I guess we don't pay if you don't click on it, right? But and my daughter has worked for Google for the last 10 years, and I told her she's destroyed the internet because you can't read an article online without seeing damn ads between the.
Right.
So that's part of the remarketing aspect of Google. So with Google Ads, there's search ads, there's display ads. Oh, and of course, I'm using a Google computer at the moment. So every time I say the word Google, it's trying to be like Siri. So my apologies there. But with that, that's part of the remarketing aspect of Google Ads. It keeps popping up. I do apologize. With those Google Ads, it means that since you have previously visited the website, you are one of the prospective consumers that we would like to continue to have those display ads, those retargeting ads appear to.
Well, so my question is, how much are we targeting, or are we ending up communicating or advertising to New Canaan residents? Because Sue's asking about visitors, and others are asking about New Canaan or New York City people interested in real estate. But how much are we marketing to our own residents?
In terms of preaching to the choir in that regard.
Right.
So Peter's in charge of the Google Ads at our company, and I'll be able to get the data from him in that regard as to what the ratio is.
Because I think it's actually good, as Bobby has pointed out. I mean, we want to get New Canaan people to appreciate about New Canaan, and including the Glass House and the things we have to offer here. But I just wonder if everybody in New Canaan is getting the same impression. I'm constantly seeing these ads.
Well, also, Kevin, the newsletter goes to 10,000 people in New Canaan. So, and for the very reason you say, we want them to see what's going on in the town. We want them to know what we're doing in support of it. But the lion's share go to people outside of New Canaan who are potential home buyers.
But you don't pay unless you click on it in terms of paying for the ads, do we?
Well, I'm talking about apples and oranges. I mean, the newsletter is free, but the click thing.
Correct. It is only pay per click.
Pay per click.
All right, we're going to have to wrap it up here because we've got other things we've got to do, and a couple of you had asked to have us be done by the time the debate starts, so I want to be mindful of that. And actually, our second guest is not joining us tonight after all, so we do have a little bit more time. So, so Nancy, talk to us about the funding. Where are you at? What's your plan? What are you looking for? And so that we can discuss that.
Well, you know, we started as a Board of Realtors project, and we have owned it and paid for it and made a big investment. But we began to realize in talking with you guys about a year or so ago, we were going along parallel paths and both spending money for the same objective, which made no sense. So if we could join forces and create some synergy financially, you know, we could use the machine that we had built and broaden it to communicate your messages. So we're happy to continue to pay the lion's share of it. We did ask for $10,000 for the first 6 months of 2020, and we'd like to ask for $10,000 for the second half, if that's possible. I mean, we're still paying considerably more than that, but we would love to have a little bit of help. And we think that it benefits everybody, and we're happy to be as inclusive as possible to benefit your members.
Okay. I think, first of all, Kevin reminds me often that TDAC doesn't have our own budget per se. We make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen. This would come out of, you know, the Selectmen's budget. So, and it sounds to me, and anybody on the committee, correct me if I'm wrong, first of all, fantastic job, guys. I mean, you're right. I remember, Nancy, when we started having these conversations and we were trying to do it and you were doing it, and then you found Noble House and Tim and all of them, and it's been going great, and obviously we're all seeing it, and so really, really well done, and obviously we're getting the results as well. But what I do think, given that we still have a number of questions that people would like to have answered and that kind of thing, I don't know if we're in a position right now to just vote on funding, especially because we don't even know what we're up against. We've had a couple of presentations over the last couple of meetings of things that we might want to fund going forward. So I'm not saying no, but I'm just saying maybe if we could have you get some of those questions answered for us. Sure. And then at the next meeting or follow-up meeting, we could talk about it. And I mean, we definitely want to support you in some way. And I'm glad that we were able to be part of the initial, you know, getting you going. So does anybody on the committee have any objections to that?
Doctor, I would make a suggestion. I think this has been very effective for the realtors, and the Board of Realtors has been paying the freight. Nancy, is that correct?
Yes, exclusively for the first year, yeah.
So and maybe the town could match if the other realtor firms in town were to pick up the share, because I think it has been very effective for the realtors. And
in other words, if each one of the houses,
if they all kicked in and the town could match what they're kicking in addition to the board.
You know, that's how we did it years ago at the chamber when we did the video project. Yeah.
I hate to be a naysayer, but the only way we got this off the ground is because there was one boss, and it was the Board of Realtors. And nobody's complaining. The board is not complaining about paying the lion's share of it. It's just that when we broadened our reach, we thought, hey, we can benefit other people, and it would be nice to have some help. All of the realtors and all of the companies pay into the Board of Realtors, so it would almost be asking for money twice to ask the realtor firms and the realtors to pay for it, because we're already paying it.
Is anybody else?
Well, that's true. So maybe instead we go to the Glass House and the Grace Farms and the other people who are benefiting, although the Glass House and the nonprofits are all pretty strapped themselves. So
yeah. Well, that could also be a discussion for the next meeting, and I'll put that on the agenda. Is, you know, if we can also help you come up with some other creative ways. Right now, it's been the Board of Realtors, and with the help of the town and the TDAC support, I haven't had any support from anybody else or any other entities.
Maybe there's a way, a pay per play kind of thing. You know, if people want to be featured, they pay a small fee. I don't know. Just a thought.
Or the restaurants. Let's see who we can round up to the party.
I mean, I know nobody has much money, but if everybody paid a little, you know, it could be useful.
Nancy, it's Laura. Bud, what is the overall operating budget per month? Or, you know, because TDAC donated or, you know, put up 10,000 from the last year's fiscal budget, and now, you know, you're looking. Now we're in a new fiscal year, new budget, etc. But how much is the campaign running every month, and is it continuing? Is it the same cost every month? You know, so what percent?
It varies a little bit. Our annual budget is about $65,000 to $70,000. So that breaks down to what, 5,000 and change. It depends on how much we spend on advertising and creative and things like that. So, I mean, we're still, you know, we still have a pretty big nut, and we'll continue with it, but that's pretty fixed.
So 60, you're spending 60 to 65 for all of calendar year 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then what about 2021? Are you hoping to keep the same level or scale back?
Yeah,
or?
I mean, no, I mean, I mean, I think we would probably, I can't speak for the board.
Right.
I'm on the board, but it hasn't been voted on yet, but I anticipate that we'll continue because everybody feels that it's an important thing for us to be doing and it's going well.
Right, and it was so fortuitous to have that the whole setup and the infrastructure ready. It was certainly terrific. Okay, I just want to get perspective of what the original 10, and then would you then be coming back in the first 6 months of 2021 looking for another 10,000?
Well, I mean, we'd love to have you as an ongoing partner to pick up, or the town or some group of entities to pick up some portion of the funding. I mean, right now, looking at the way it is, we're talking about a third or less than a third. And we'd like that to continue, sure, but if it can't continue, it can't continue. I mean, we're not saying putting a gun to anybody's head. We just would like to have.
And we want to support you. It's just, that was a third of the budget, you know, the total budget that we even possibly had to work with last time. And we saw it as seed money, but also, you know, want to support you going forward. I do know we have to move on again, just want to wrap up in time for the debate. So I think the way I'd like to leave it at this stage is we will bring this up again at our next meeting. Maybe Nancy, you and I and Tim could have a conversation, or send an email just wrapping up some of those questions. In the meantime, everyone, TDAC-wise, be thinking about any other opportunities that we might be able to collectively pull some funding together to support this project. And again, just really great job. Please let the Board of Realtors know and everybody else that we're thrilled. And Nancy, I know you put a lot of time into this from the beginning of your own time, and it's clearly paid off, and we're really grateful to all that, for all your work.
Thank you, Tucker, and thank you for all of your support, everybody, because it's been a big group effort.
Thank you, Nancy, and thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you all.
All right, we're going to move right along here. We have several people, as you can see, who've joined us tonight. Welcome. The Friends of the 1913 Library had asked to join us tonight. And while they are very aware that this group has no, we have no authority in any decision making as far as the library and the fate of the 1913 building, they did have something that they wanted to present that was relevant to the work that TDEC is doing, which is to promote tourism here in New Canaan and the town of New Canaan. So let's see, Kim, are you gonna kick us off, or? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank everyone for inviting us tonight. Thank you, Tucker, for letting us speak. I'd like to introduce our group. It's called the Friends of Our 1913 Library. We're a committee that was appointed by the New Canaan Preservation Alliance, which is a 501c, a nonprofit entity. Our mission is to save the 1913 library and create its future. While there are many reasons residents see to do this, aesthetic, historical, social, cultural, or educational, we believe that there are many potential economic benefits for our town that will energize our downtown, create direct and indirect jobs, revenue, and serve to make our economic fabric more resilient to market changes, especially like we're experiencing now with COVID. In our presentation, we will share visual images of the building, its footprint, and define what we mean when we refer to 1913, which is approximately 3,600 square feet. We also plan to review a pro forma financial analysis that shows our long-term projection for making the building self-sustaining and at no cost burden to the library or to the town. Our group commissioned a feasibility study by Kirk & Company out of Boston and New York that determined, based on market conditions, that the 1913 building can be reused in a variety of ways. It can be an income-producing building with a private tenant, public-private partnership for commercial office space, creative arts use, civic use. It could have hybrid tenants or a sharing of tenancy. Since we have such a wide open playing field, we would like to dialogue with your group what uses would be best fitting for our town and generate the most economic impact. We'd like to address unmet needs that you think the community has and uses that would dovetail with the New Canaan Library programming. I'm going to focus on 3 potential uses. The first use is office space. And I did a little bit of research on historic buildings and real estate trends in New York City, which I think is relevant to us because we have a lot of residents from New York City that have moved here and our close proximity to the city, as well as the migration of companies looking to get out of New York City into what's called groundscapers. And the building behind me, which is the 1913 library, is a groundskeeper. So what's a groundskeeper? It's a building that's close to the ground with multiple entrances as opposed to a skyscraper. A lot of small startup and new companies are choosing historic properties for office space. It generates local jobs, convenience for workers, and it's a source of commercial vitality for downtown areas. Smaller firms like the unique character of the buildings. Creative industry professionals are choosing historic buildings. TAMI tenants like architecturally distinctive spaces. A TAMI tenant, or TAMI is an acronym that stands for Technology, Advertising, Media, and Information Companies. The library has an open, adaptable floor plan, which appeals to these types of small firms who can afford to retrofit it because it's not very expensive. And millennial workers really value sustainability and want to work for firms that value that too. So having an office in a historic structure helps these companies with recruiting millennials as well as retaining them. And that would be a great addition to our community. The second use I want to focus on is cultural tourism. And cultural tourism, you know, I'm sure you've all talked about this a lot. It can generate more traffic, foot traffic, car traffic to town. It can create direct and indirect jobs and tourists spending money on transportation, parking, restaurants, retail, generating taxes, and more. One use that was suggested to us was and I think there's someone on here from the Glass House. Is he still here? Oh yeah. Hi, Greg, I don't know you, but someone suggested a new home for the Glass House Tourist Center. Someone else suggested a modern house architectural education center. A third suggestion is a sustainability education center, which would promote environmental issues, health, the New Canaan Green Trail, Planet New Canaan Nature Center, and the Farmers Market, as well as Land Trust. So we have so many different amazing nonprofits in town and green trails and walkability, and putting that all in one place would be extremely unique to New Canaan. And I think it would be great for the residents as well as tourists coming in. The last use that I want to talk about before I turn it over to Carl Rothbard, our architect, is a creative arts use. And I've heard that from different brokers that perhaps the creative arts is an unmet need in New Canaan. And a couple of possible ideas, and just so that Carl will show, when he shows you the architectural drawings, there is a southwest missing corner on the building. So an idea to fill that in is perhaps a space that has, or a design that has an indoor and outdoor capacity. If anyone's been to Tanglewood, there's a small building in Tanglewood where there's an ability for artists to perform inside, audience to sit outside, which is perfect for COVID times, that we want that indoor-outdoor flexibility. Another thing that's been suggested is a winter home for the New Canaan Summer Theater, and then an outdoor home in the summer. And I did a quick calculation, and the lawn that's being proposed by the New Canaan Library is about 2/3 of an acre. If 1913 is allowed to stay where it sits, that green space will only go down to 0.7 parts of an acre. So really there's going to be an enormous amount of green space for a tent to go out there, or for the summer theater to continue to, you know, do what they do, which is so great. Another idea is a dance studio. And the last thing was suggested was an in-town satellite of the Silvermine Art Studio. And there is already a gallery in there that lends itself and currently has art exhibits there now. So that's a lot of information. I wanted to fit it in and be brief because I know you guys have probably had a long day. I would like to turn it over to Carl Rothbard, and then Charlie Robinson will present our pro forma financials. Carl? Carl, you're on mute.
Hi, everyone. Is it possible for me to share my screen? Because I want to show some things.
Sure, let me just do that for you, Carl.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay, I've just made you a co-host.
Okay. And let me see if I can do this. Okay, does everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to take a few minutes to clarify any misconceptions that there are out there about the building, our scope of work, and what condition it's in. So this will be very brief, but let me just see how I can do this. So when we talk about saving the 1913 building, there's really two aspects to it. At the top of the screen is the original 1913 building, which included the massing at the front that's still visible today and the back portion of the building. So originally the building contained two masses and the one in the back was set back a little bit. So that's what was there in 1913. We're planning, ideally to be able to preserve that. In 1936, an addition was added on the north side of the building, set back from the main building mass. You could see that from the original drawing on the left-hand side, and on the upper right-hand side is the way it looks today. That building mass is still intact, and that is something we would like to have preserved as part of the overall 1913 complex. What you can see from those photos, and I have a drawing which will help clarify it, is that the critical building facades are still intact. On the lower two photos shows the south-facing facade originally before the recent addition was built, and the south facade currently. Behind that lower building mass, the south facade, although the windows have been enclosed, is still intact. So once the newer addition is removed, that south facade needs some work to recreate what was there, but the entire east and north facade and the return of the 1936 addition on the west facade are still intact, and those are really the primary historic building facades and what gives the building its character. So just briefly, so everyone knows, this is the plan of the library as it exists today, and the plan is, to save the 1913 and the 1936 edition. The rest will be removed. Okay, so this drawing, because I know there's been a lot of discussion about what walls remain, what walls don't remain, what's historic. The walls highlighted in yellow are walls that are original walls that still remain. The walls highlighted in blue, they're potentially there, but we'd have to do some exploration. But those are internal walls, so they're not as critical. And the red area are walls that we know don't exist, and we have a budget to rebuild that area. So as you can see from this, the majority of the walls are still intact. And again, all of the critical walls are still there. And another question that's, come up throughout this project is, what is the size of the 1936 building and the building with the addition that we would like to see saved? And we had gone out there and done careful field measurements of the building and the addition, and we have a gross square footage measured accurately on site of 3,600 square feet. So, I mean, these two issues, what is the square footage of the building, has been a question all along, and what walls remain. I think, between this and this, these issues need to be put to bed now because they've really been identified and confirmed. So this is a rendering that would show the new library and the 1936 library kept intact. And as you can see, there's still a big green space. And one thing, which is a basic thing of urban planning, is to is to tie down a corner. You don't want an open floating site at a corner in a town. So that's why even the new library is built out to the street. And we really feel that the 1913 library, beyond being an icon of the town and one of its most important buildings, plays an important role just by its massing and location in the town. This is just a little, perspective drawing that shows how the two building masses can coexist, and how, all over the world, there are new buildings working in conjunction with old historic buildings, and that's what really makes an urban fabric an interesting place. So we had done an analysis of the building, and I have done a cost estimate for what we feel it would take to bring I'm not going to go through all these items, but to bring the building up to date in terms of architectural needs, new mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, ADA upgrades, and recreating the missing portion at the southwest corner. And we have a total of $828,000. I mean, if there are questions afterwards, we can go over this in more detail.
Carl, what I'd really like to see us focus on tonight is really how the presentation, I mean, these are all great details. I think many of us have seen them, but how this really would relate to our mission, which is to promote the town, tourism, economic development, and that kind of thing.
Okay, yeah, we're hoping to get to that. We just wanted to define, because there's been so much confusion, but maybe we can move on. Thank you, Carl.
Yeah,
move on to Charlie's pro forma analysis that shows a little bit about if we were to reuse this building, how we would go about doing it, and that it's an affordable and very revenue producing adventure. Okay, Charlie, thank you.
Tucker, I'm going to ask to share my screen as well, and thank you very much. Let me see if I can. Here we are.
Let me get you there. You on?
Yep.
Okay.
So here we are, and let me just see if I can get it to a slideshow from beginning. Here we are. Well, guys, I'm completely thrilled to be the bringer of good news. First time in a long time for all of us, I think. The good news is that this is an eminently doable project. This is a crazily screaming out at us, let's do this project. Tucker, our imaginations aren't wide enough to answer the question, what could be done with this building? But we start with, the thing stands strongly, and but for the southwest corner really is ready to go. As a matter of fact, those of you who were invited, I was not, did have the elite cocktail parties where the library board showed its patrons and solicited their donations for the new project in this very 1913 library building. So, but we got a crazy situation. The library board says they don't want it, can't use it, won't use it, and they're dug in, they're firm. Well, okay. But they also tell the town, from whom they're asking for some $10 million, and it's going to be more, that just to create the terraced lawn, which is a funny terrace lawn, the terraces being 25 feet in north to south depth, will be $2.5 million plus. Keith Simpson has validated this number. It's a wild landscaping gambit. But it asks for all the monies, all of it, from New Canaan taxpayers in the $10 million. Let's be clear. New Canaan Preservation Alliance and the 19 Friends Committee will gratefully receive this building as described and defined by Carl from NCLI, as is, where is, whatever condition it is, and we are going to sensitively modernize its systems to the modern systems. We're going to repurpose it and we're going to lease it on a triple net basis, taxes, maintenance, and insurance to the tenant. New Canaan taxpayers will save $2.5 million plus and reduce the $10 million that is asked by the library from the town to the library. And the town will keystone a triple win. Triple win. Library wins, town's taxpayers win, and the town wins fiscally. It's incredible. We've seen this. I want to stress a couple of things here. There is more than adequate, I'm going to have to go up, more than adequate allowance in this budget for the infill of the southwest corner. There is more than adequate allowance in here for the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and finished plumbing upgrades. You see those there. There's 20% reserves in this, general conditions and a contingency. This is done by Carl Rothbart, who's a 40-year preservation architect. But before that, Carl worked as a middle schooler and a high schooler for his dad's New York City contracting business, and he is expert at estimation. Look at this, guys. $828,000 gets us a modern, repurposed, freestanding building, not touching or otherwise impeding on a new library building. And it is a place where we could have anything you can imagine, Tucker, from a non-for-profit to a hedge fund. So let's go to the economics. I have a very detailed bottom-up analysis that yields these numbers, but let's look at the most recent numbers that are obtainable for office space rentals in New Canaan right now. Low on a monthly rentable square footage basis is $1.63, high $4.17, average $2.90. You can see the annual, that's just 12 months times that. We do a 22-year analysis to conform with the 20-year bond that the town will otherwise issue to fund its $10 million or hopefully $7.5 million or less donation to the library, because we find a way to save money and make money. Look at this. Cumulative net income over the 22-year period. And we allow 22 years, the slide being how fast or slow the library exits its use of 1913 when it's ready to move into its new building. We allow for the slide on that. But our 22-year period covers the bond life. And look at this. Even at the lowest rate of office rental, asking today, cumulative net income of almost 4 million, 1.38 million. And then we also provide in our model for a buildup of a maintenance and capital expenditure reserve after expending $250,000 along the way in the 22-year period for maintenance and capital expenditures. After.
Charlie, I'm not seeing anything other than your face. Are you sharing your screen?
I am. It says I am screen sharing.
I see the screen, Tucker.
You do? Okay, so it must be
okay. I'll call out the numbers.
Let's
go to the high, because many tenants might deem this building deluxe, beautiful, modern, because it will be made to the modern spec. Imagine 22 years cumulative net income of $4.144 million. Imagine a maintenance reserve, $4.208 million. Let's go to present values, okay? At the low rent, 34,700. Internal rate of return, 3.24%. That's nothing to write home about, but NCPA is a non-for-profit. If we wanted to rent to a chamber music 501c3, we could choose to do so, and still it would be a positive economic project. But if we wanted to rent instead to the town of New Canaan at the average rate, it would be still a positive project. We'd have a present value of over $1 million renting to the town of New Canaan, saving the town of New Canaan money towards some portion of its education department administrators putting them in there. People, the economics are compelling. The architecture is inspiring and compelling. You see it every day in the comments in the papers, such as any of the papers will continue to publish them. There is a groundswell of support for the saving of this building. Our own first selectman at one time said he could even kind of understand how people might care to preserve New Canaan's iconic landmark 1913 library building. I want to stress, from an economic standpoint towards TDAC, Tucker, I will share the model in all of its glory and all of its faults. And then lastly, Kevin, when we presented this to him, asked a tremendously strong question about taxation. We've looked into that. And so, Kevin, to answer you on that, and I'm sorry it's taken this long, we've conferred, not exhaustively, but briefly, with both a tax accountant and a tax lawyer. We feel confident that we will enjoy the safe harbor under IRC 512B3. We will structure the way we do this to conform well within the limits there. We'll enjoy this shelter from UBTI. Thank you all very much, and let's look forward to a good debate. Take care.
Kim, I'm getting some questions in the chat to me, just, really wanting to address the cultural tourism and marketing and economic development piece. So if we could get to that.
Yeah, great. You want me to look in chat, or do you want to?
No, I've got it. Just asking, what if we could narrow it down to that, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, we're done with our presentation. So if anyone wants to ask us anything, and that's what I was hoping to get feedback on what people think about the use, given your background and what we can do to make the town as resilient as possible.
Okay, thank you all. Questions from the committee? Is there anybody out there? And I'm seeing you all, but just speak up if you have a question.
I'm interested to hear what Brock might have to say as someone who is a commercial real estate broker and is, knows the demand and the supply in town, and how much demand we have, et cetera, for a building like this.
I know Brock is in the car right now, but he is on the call, so maybe if he can hear us, he might chime in. Brock? He also could be, I know he was driving to Vermont, so he could be out of range, but.
Tucker, I can answer that question.
Okay.
I do commercial real estate also. And one building that immediately popped in my mind as a historic building that has always been fully rented is the old telephone building across the street. So I had, when you were discussing this as a unique use, I think that we have examples of that in town. And I do feel, I'd like to know or think about how many office workers and people would be in that building, because that would directly benefit Main and Elm in foot traffic. And I think that's one thing that we're trying to do. So to tear down this building removes that opportunity and that traffic. And I find that to be important. And also it's important to me to hear this, this information. I'm not sure I fully understand it, but it does sound like there will be some type of savings. And one thing that does trouble me about Main and Elm right now is the high level of business taxation on these buildings, which are paid for by the tenants. And anything to reduce that would be of interest to me. I think it makes our business area stronger. But it's also just that traffic. You have a building there of 3,600 square feet. It lives and it breathes every day. It may have a very good, unique use that will make New Canaan more attractive and bring a different type of tenant. And it will only make our business area stronger. And I do think we're suffering from an incredible amount of empty stores. And we have to start thinking broadly to try to fill those vacancies.
Tucker, I'm here. Thanks, Jack. This is Brock. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. In addition to all the vacant retail space, there's a ton of vacant office space currently. I've been out with several groups over the last several months, and there is just a ton of vacant office space. So I didn't see the annual per square foot figures projected, where there's somewhere around $30 to $40 a square foot. I'm not sure, but the current conditions are, it's very soft. There's a ton of vacant office space. It's been hard for landlords to retain office tenants. So it's a tough environment in both the retail and office sector.
Thank you.
I agree with that, Brock, but I do think it's always a changing marketplace. I am taking commercial tenants out also, and you know, prices are starting to slide downward, and people are coming in, I think. It won't be forever.
Any other questions from TDEC folks? Do I see anybody? Oh, wait, Kevin, sorry, I did mute you, Kevin, because you picked up a phone call.
One comment in response to Jack. So the telephone building was bought a year or two ago by a hedge fund. And I forget what it traded for, something like $3.5 million as an office.
Yeah, and then before that, it had an architect in it for probably about 18 years.
Right. So, but the fact that it's an economic asset worth $3.5 million means that the library has economic value. And you're saying we should look at it as though it's a savings of $2.5 million for the town of the $10 million grant from the town. But the reality is it's an asset owned by the library.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it has economic value because it may bring a unique tenant in. You have 3,600 square feet, and you have an example across the street. It's a smaller building, but it has been occupied since it became available.
Yeah, Jack, my only point is that it could have economic value as a rental building. And if you were to line up a tenant for a 20-year lease that was credible, the only part I argue with, you know, the asset can't go to a nonprofit because it's basically having the library give it to you. You know, you got to recognize that the asset has value both as land and as a building. And so I don't buy the analysis. You can simply say, you know, the library should give it to you. They own the asset.
But if they don't give it to us, they'll just tear it down.
Well, may I speak? Yeah. Kevin, we've had very polite discussion, and this is going to continue that discussion. The biggest canard working in town is that the library owns, in quotation marks, its land and buildings. It does. In a fee simple basis, it does. But the library is a zero. It's a less than zero without the town. Whether you look back 20 years, 30 years, 40, 50 years, it's a zero. It's increasingly a zero because the town is creeping up and creeping up and creeping up, supporting the library operations. So I think that we need to focus on how do we do for the town and its taxpayers first, and secondly, for the library board. My personal opinion is I'd really love to see our town save $2.5+ million off the $10 million ask and let a 501c3 like NCPA bring in at a very favorable rent rate some portion of our town education department into a magnificent building. This will be, it is now, it'll be even more magnificent with modern systems and a view to the new library building and a terrace out back, ADA compliant, and save the town some more money that's paying to some other landlord for a portion of it. So I would submit that we're looking at something that could approach $3 million in savings to the town for the doing of this building and pleasing most of its taxpayers. I think we need to get our heads around the people with the gold, the taxpayers, get to call the shots.
Who would receive the revenue on a rental if it were rented out to
New Canaan Preservation Alliance.
Yeah,
And it would build a maintenance and a capital expenditure reserve, which you've seen in the summary information. And Tucker, again, I hold out. There's a detailed model that shows how this goes.
Okay.
This is so compelling that it's crazy that the library itself didn't look at it.
Well, you know,
I just
go ahead
to jump in for a second. You know, I think that's something that could be worked out depending on how everyone comes to the table in terms of who gets the revenue. I think Charlie's talking about one option, but I think if there was a coming together of different groups, the revenue could be shared depending on how much the library comes to the table or if the town wants to be part of the project. We're just saying if no one else wants it and we have to take it, meaning the NCPA, then the revenue would go back to the NCPA, but it would be hopefully funneled back into the town for preservation of other buildings. So it wouldn't be, you know, put into a project outside of New Canaan. I mean, our goal is to try to
Kim,
push
your point is extremely well taken. And Tucker, your question is super. And it leads to an additional element that I didn't even speak to, but it is spoken to in the model. A 501c3 organization could be the library itself, it could be NCPA, and or a municipality, the town of New Canaan. Those three category of players can each go to the state, SHPO. They can request a listing on the state historic reserve, okay? And they can, once granted, they can get grants, they can get absolutely non-repayable grants towards the restoration, towards the construction work on the building. In addition, they can get up to 25% of the cost of those restorations, renovations, new systems in tax credits that are then sold primarily at the moment to Eversource. I assure you, when we get this building, we're going to avail ourselves of that. And I stress, it's not debt, so it does not bring us out from under the safe harbor of UBTI.
I mean, you know, I'd like to just,
an amazingly doable project. The internal rates of return that I showed you will only go up if the actual equity cost to the doer is reduced by the things I just described. I didn't want to complicate the matter, but the IRRs go up.
I mean, I
flexibility to lease to non-for-profits, to the town is broad.
Yeah,
Darien,
I mean, I'd like to just jump in for a minute, Charlie. I'd just like to jump in. I mean, I think the revenues, if the NCPA is taking the building, can go towards other town preservation projects. So
yes.
Similar to the land trust, buying different open space and for everyone to enjoy. And there's, you know, I've been listening to lots of different meetings and how the town doesn't want to be burdened with lots and lots of buildings, but the NCPA could help and be part of the solution. Instead of looking at, you know, certain buildings as a burden, it's something that we could hopefully help the town with. So that's
but again, I want to bring this conversation. We have to wrap it up here, but I just the reason to bring you all here tonight was really about economic development and tourism. I really respect all of the work that you are doing. I respect the work that the library board is doing. I think everybody's got the same goal, that we want New Canaan to be the best it can be. And I thank you for reaching out and for all the information. And I think at this point in time, if there's anybody else from the committee that has any questions for this group, if not, I think we're going to move on. Do I see any? I don't. Kim, Charlie, everybody, thank you very much for being here. And hopefully you benefited from our little social media campaign presentation earlier. I thought that might be interesting for you as well. So
yeah, that was interesting. Thanks very much, Tucker. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Take care. We were scheduled to hear from Jeff Luff tonight. Jack gets around. Jack travels all over the place. Jack is always sending me pictures. He said, I was here, I was there, look at this, look at that. Must be nice to be Jack, running all over the country and picking up on things. And I have to say, Jack, I totally relate. When I took over the chamber job, I found myself, when I would travel, looking at lampposts and garbage cans and things like that. So it does happen. Jack had found a gentleman up at Oxford, Connecticut. I sent you the information. He actually was born and raised in New Canaan. He has a small manufacturing business, I believe, and was on the ZBA in Oxford, and then moved on to the planning and zoning chair, and now is the full-time economic development director there. He was going to join us tonight and talk to us a little bit about how he's seen the role evolve. But he actually had a meeting this morning in Thomaston, Connecticut, I believe. And whatever happened, he said it went so well that they insisted that he stick around and celebrate. So he turned us down for that, which I can't blame him, but I promised him that we'd see him again. So Jack, thank you for making the introduction. I did have a great conversation with him initially, and we will bring him in because I do want to hear sort of, again, we talked a little bit, he and I did, but I'd love for him to tell the rest of the group what he's learned along the way. So having said that, this gives us a little bit of time to catch up to the last couple of meetings. We haven't talked since we had the presentation from Eric of AutoCast. I've spoken with some of you individually. If you remember, that was the app that could take you, that he showed us all the things that he's done all across the country. A couple of us have had conversations about this, and I just wanted to know if anybody since that time has had any thoughts on it, if it's something that we would like to shepherd through, if they can see, you see any applications here that we might want to bring him, into town to work on. He has worked with the sculpture trail. If I remember correctly, I think it was it $100 a location or something like that? I mean, it was extraordinarily inexpensive. But anybody have any thoughts after hearing from him, or Nancy?
I was really impressed by him. The idea that it's $100 a pin just seems like it's a huge benefit to all the nonprofits, and then for businesses, $100 isn't much. So I would really encourage us to move forward on that as a town.
Right. Bob.
Sorry, if I can interject too. I thought that presentation was phenomenal. I wonder if there's any, not overlap is the wrong word, they're actually closing a gap, but is there any coordination between AutoCast and Live New Canaan, right? If they were working together doing what they both do best, but it just seems to me that they shouldn't be two separate paths,
right?
That the town goes down. They should somehow be coordinated efforts.
But Bob, can I ask you something? If we had AutoCast, couldn't that then live on Live New Canaan? Like, couldn't they promote it so that people that came had this map to use?
Yeah, I think there are several answers to it. I'm just making the 30,000 foot point that they shouldn't be separate, uncoordinated paths.
Right.
They both are great, important, seem to be doing good work. But they need to be connected somehow.
BJ.
I think that we run a feed from the directory from Explore New Canaan over to Live New Canaan. So I'm almost wondering if the AutoCast should connect to that directory, because that would be like a direct connection. Live New Canaan benefits from it, and they would be able to act as a social media extension.
Right, BJ, you're right. I mean, you don't want to have too many different activities left to do, right? It needs to be, I'm the person from out of town or in town, wherever. I need to do one thing, even if there are 3 different vendors, 3 different parts to it, right? One experience for me.
Right, and I think that the directory is expansive enough that it has so many of the offerings here in town. And we've seen an uptick just being connected to Live New Canaan. And it would be wonderful to think of this product as almost like an, you know, kind of like a sleeve, like, you know, it benefits, you know, everything benefits from it. So it, you know, it's just a great extension.
So maybe as far as next steps, I should ask Eric if he would maybe get together with a small group of us, and I'm looking at Nancy and Bob and BJ. Bob, I know you're, Bob's turning off the light. He said, I'm not on TDEC anymore, but, and if there's anybody else.
Bob's on everything else. So it's
he is, right? And which is important actually, because he does have a good sense of everything that's going on. So maybe bring him in. I'm going to offer up Laura too. She's not going to be happy with me, but that we could bring him on a smaller group call and talk to him about how we could potentially utilize it to leverage what we've talked about tonight. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. All right. I'll set that up and we can go from there.
And Tucker, I am unmuted, sorry. And at some point, it would be good to just have a table conversation with Noble House and AutoCast as well, right? To see how the things might, there's questions to be asked that we don't know to ask, right?
Right.
We know what the end game is, but.
Tucker, I think it might be valuable at this point, thinking ahead to the next fiscal year, this fiscal year, an overview of what some of the, who might be coming to us.
Yeah.
How we want to allocate our funds if we do indeed have another $30,000, where promotion, where we want to equitably distribute promotion, or maybe we don't want to equitably distribute it. Maybe we want to prioritize certain things. But I feel like I don't have a handle right now on a framework that we can establish for giving. And I do agree with you that Live New Canaan, it would be nice to continue to be a partner to them on some level. But we should also think about some of the other things that might be coming our way so we can.
And remember, we're actually, I mean, again, the money's not all ours to spend, but we did already commit 10 to Channel 79. So we're at 20 actually for this fiscal year. That's why the AutoCast though was so appealing to me. Just, I thought the presentation was so great, but we wouldn't even necessarily have to put a penny into that if we could find, you know, if we could design it for them and pull it together and get everybody involved. I mean, everybody would pay their each $100. So, but I agree. I don't want to do this a la carte, if you will, the funding process. I want to have a good idea of what we think might be coming down the road for us. All right, so I'm going to leave it that I will get a small group together to speak with Eric from AutoCast. I think the Noble House connection is important. And then I will do my best. I mean, right now, all I know of in terms of anybody coming to us for funding requests is the Noble House. If anybody knows of something else down the road, I mean, I'm not sure where we're at with October for Design. So I want to make sure we keep that in focus as well.
Well, a lot of the stuff for October for Design doesn't need to be funded this year.
Exactly, but
yeah, but there's still an overage over and above what TDAC funded. There's still about a $1,500 overage that would go into this next year.
Okay. All right, moving right along. Bob, do you want to give just a couple minute update on the concert? Fabulous job last week. Really, really great.
Oh, thank you. We had I assume everyone was either there or has logged in and clicked on it and seen it. It's part of what we're committed to doing at 79 in this as we, you know, rework the organization. But the concert with Andrew Armstrong was 150 people outdoors at the Presbyterian Church last week. And it was a great, as I said in my letter to the editor today, it was a great segue into Lobster Fest. Got to do the concert outdoors one night and lobster the next night. It could be better. But that's kind of part of the things that are so great about this town. I think Andrew is not here, unfortunately, this evening, but, you know, he and I have talked and we want to try to do another concert for New Canaan before the end of the year. I have 2 more concerts in the works that we're trying to do on 79 before the end of the year, and several other little holiday kind of events that we're working on and trying to put together. But we're just trying to be part of the, engaging everybody in the community and showing what's here to offer, and that's what we're kind of trying to build up at the moment.
Well, it was great.
Thank you. And if you haven't seen it yet, just go to youtube.com/NCTV79 and watch it. It was great fun.
Can we share the link that you sent, like in the newsletters and stuff? Can we just put that in? You sent a link to the concert. Can we share that?
Is that a direct link I sent you, Nancy?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, if it's an e-newsletter, you can use the direct link, which will go just to the video. But if anybody goes to the youtube.com/NCTV79, it's there as well.
Okay.
As well as the body of the Women Leaders of New Canaan series, the new series that launched last week, Connected Mind and Body for Seniors, and all the other videos we've been adding and trying to produce lately. But if I gave you a direct link, Nancy, you could use that to just get them to the concert.
Okay, thank you.
Nancy, you want to just, anything happening October for Design?
Well, Keith Simpson gave his presentation on Blue Homes. And tonight we had a conflict. So Mary McLeod from the Glass House, the Joint Glass House Historical Society presentation was tonight at 7. Mary McLeod was talking about the role of women in architecture. So I will watch the recording, but I think that was going to be a really amazing program. And Mark Markavitz is talking about Eero Saarinen next week. We've had interest. The Live New Canaan people did a couple of wonderful stories on it, especially around the Builders Challenge. They did a big story around that, which is the children's Lego, which I don't know if you haven't seen, walk through some of the towns in New Canaan, and they're just wonderful creations. DeMonsta is in Found, and that's really worth a stop. So things are good. We're working towards next year, the Community Canvas launch. We're looking to build a couple of other panels, really looking for diversity and inclusion families that could be on the panel. So if you know of any people that haven't submitted portraits, please have them send them to me.
Great.
Nancy, I just have a question. So I did want to see that presentation tonight, and actually my daughter too. Doing this. So how do I see that presentation that was done?
There's going to be a recording. I will talk to Cole Ackers in the morning about how to get that out to people, because a lot of people are missing it for other conflicts tonight.
Yeah.
I can put you on the email distribution list.
That'd be great. And I have enjoyed the Lego in the windows. That's been wonderful.
They're really great.
They're really good. Fun.
That and the scarecrows downtown, there's a lot to that, which is perfect with COVID, right? You could just go with your own family and stroll up the street and but at any time. So makes downtown really appealing. So great job. And over at the Noyes House, the tours are still happening. I was back over there a couple weeks ago. I got a chance to go again. And the second time was even better, actually, for me. But I'm glad they've added their extra days.
There are people on my Instagram that are going there and then posting this all up. I mean, it is kind of all over Instagram in the art communities. It's good.
Tucker, Abby would like to give a follow-up at our next meeting, kind of as the bracketed end of this exhibition that's been ongoing. Just to kind of fill us in on what's gone on and what might happen in the future, what she's learned from it, all of that.
Okay, great. I'll make sure we get her on the agenda. Anything else, guys?
I just have one thing, just quickly. Would it be an idea to bring the people that are putting the gas lines into town to find out an update on that? Because that is something where people are trying to figure out how they can make those savings and when they're going to be available to the businesses in town. I have had people ask me that.
Kevin, you want to take that?
Well, you know as much as I do, Tucker, pretty much.
We've met with the crew that's planning this just the other day, and we're trying to sort of discern a level of interest from if it were to expand Pine Street further down on Elm Street. We have several business owners and landowners that would like to take advantage of that. Right now we need contracts basically for Eversource to be interested in moving that forward. So I guess I would say, rather than, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have them come to TDAC, but Jack, if you know someone specifically that's interested, if you want to send me their information, I can connect them directly with the folks at Eversource. So
I guess that I would have some people like that, but it's just a question people ask is, you know, what's the time frame?
We are going to host an open Zoom in the middle of November, Kevin. Isn't that what we decided?
Yeah, let me just say, so Eversource made a 3-year commitment to bring gas into New Canaan, but it was based upon them having to bring gas from Stanford through Darien to Norwalk back to Wilton as a resiliency project. They're regulated by PURA to have to be able to justify economic expansion, so that it's not being paid for by the current ratepayers, but by the overall profitability of the new business. So they have to put together a portfolio. Going forward, they have to justify next year with new business the ability to invest the money to expand. So right now we're trying to encourage them to further expand downtown with Elm Street, Pine Street, Grove Street, expand over. They're going to go to 42 Forest with that new development already. They're committed to do that by the end of the year. But we'd like to have them do Forest Street and the other buildings over there on. So, and the good news is they're committed to further expanding in New Canaan, as they are in Darien. They are very happy with the results for the first 3 years, and they see further opportunity to expand in New Canaan. So they view it as a multi-year, continuation of expansion. But we have to they have to get the customers.
Right.
Okay. So at the present time, there's no retail establishments that are, or restaurants that are hooked up to the gas. Is that correct?
Elm Street has proved challenging because the landlords and getting into the back alleys has proved a challenge for them, because they have to get the easements from the landlords, and
they've been blocked.
I think it'd be easy. Some landlords have said, no, I'm not going to give you an easement, which has blocked out several rows of stores and restaurants.
But is the plan in the future to have the gas available to the businesses in town?
Oh yeah, that was the plan. We want the restaurants to convert to gas, so they don't have all those propane tanks, which are
right. There's a safety issue too.
It's not really economically advantaged to them, but propane can be dangerous when it leaks. It can unlike natural gas, which dissipates in the air, it stays in the ground, and if it ignites, it can cause an awful fire. So we really want the restaurants to convert to natural gas, and they will over in the next few years. But it's been more challenging to get the landlords to agree to do it than we expected.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, team. This is good. We can all brush our teeth before the debate, right? Thank you all again for tonight. I will follow up on those open items and send you all an email. Kim, team, thank you very much again for being here, and everybody else. And Jack, thank you for introducing me to Jeff. I'll get him to our next meeting, hopefully. In the meantime, enjoy tonight, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.